The Baltic Sea UFO discovered June 2011. Ocean X intrepid explorers of the sea and treasure hunters, headed up by Peter Lindberg and Dennis Aberg. Yeah, Swedish crew of Ocean X, heading out over the Baltic Oceans looking for wrecks predominantly. Because yes, they're treasure hunters, first and foremost. Yep, they didn't expect to come across what they found in June of 2011. Heck no, they didn't. So these guys usually unearth sort of like, they came across a load of champagne once, a big case of it, and it sold for quite a lot of money because it had been down there for ages. So yeah, this region of the actual Baltic Sea that we're talking about is sort of like an estuary of sorts in a roundabout way. It's a giant swathe of lake found in the Baltics, but it links out to the actual sea. So seawater is coming in as well as fresh water being there, which makes this sort of brackish mix of water, which is very good at preserving finds. So they've unearthed all sorts of shipwrecks down inside of here, and they were going from wreck to wreck in June of 2011, where they normally would go. But they had the sonar running the whole time that they were going to see if they could come across any other wrecks. And what they come across wasn't a wreck, but a strange anomaly that was perfectly round, that had them sort of going, what the heck have we just come across with inside of the oceans? So when the sonar bounced back this perfectly round, 60-meter diameter, that's 200 feet, round spherical object, it definitely wasn't a normal day out. It definitely wasn't a normal shipwreck. This thing had earmarks of extraterrestrial. Or at least that's what they thought when they first saw this giant, round, perfect spherical disc upon the seabed, which appeared to have geometric lines on its surface and a drag trail. So yes, their first theories were extraterrestrial, man-made, or natural phenomenon. So at this stage, all they had done was had their ship going across, pinging the sonar up and down to create this sort of 2D sort of image of what might actually be down there. I mean, sonar does give the sort of contours of the land as well, but then they went back over it again just to sort of get a 2D representation of the actual area, and that's where they saw sort of the drag lines or the darker patches that looks like it's came in from a crash landing. So yeah. So next step is to get a 3D image of this thing. So they did that by sending down an unmanned drone and their tech wizard from a remote-controlled one all the way down to where this thing is located, which is about 100 meters underneath the oceans, which is quite a feat for any sort of divers that have got to go there. But we're going to get to that in a moment, because that's the next stage. So we sent down this unmanned drone, and the images that came back raised even more questions than they did answers. This thing, not only being quite round, had quite a lot of grooves in it that had right angles and dead straight lines that kind of made them think, well, maybe if this isn't alien, perhaps it's a man-made structure because of the linear grooves. So next up was to send down a dive team. Now, because this is a massive depth underwater, this was a massive undertaking because of safety concerns. You've only got so much oxygen inside of the oxygen tanks, so they've worked out by the time they've dived down there, they only have 10 minutes to do their research on the budget that they had. So it's quite an undertaking. So they sent down these divers, and they did so when it was quite foggy as a day. It was a very dangerous mission, and everybody was on tender hooks with this. But the idea was to dive down with some little mini sort of like pickaxey type things and chisel away at the surface of this to bring back some sort of sample that they could look at to find out whether this thing is man-made, whether it's alien, or what. I mean, if they got down there and they were hitting it and nothing came off, that's kind of what they were expecting if it would be a UFO, because yeah, maybe it would be metallic in structure. But then who's to say that UFOs have to be metallic in structure? I mean, they could be organic, they could be anything. I mean, at the end of the day, UFO is unidentified flying object, isn't it? Well, this one's freaking underwater. It's not going to be doing much flying, but you get what I'm saying. Anyhow, they dived all the way down, and with their 10 minutes, they did indeed, with their little pickaxes, manage to get some sort of samples to bring back to the surface. Now, it's at this stage, people, where I'm going to go into it and say, do you think this is real or is it fake? I mean, the evidence, the size of the thing, the geometric grooves on the thing. You would kind of think that it might be real, wouldn't you? However, they got those actual rock samples. I say rock samples because that's what they came back with, was some sort of rocky type materials. Yes, geological materials they brought back, and it was black in texture, and it scraped off. Now, I've got my own theories on this, which I'm going to cover in a moment, but I'm no geologist, I'm no scientist, and I'm not a marine biologist, so yeah, it's only my opinion. Anyhow, they took it to the specialists, and the specialists came back with the theory that this is a deposited giant volcanic structure that's been moved by an icial glacier that's defrosted and then deposited it at the ocean bed where they've found it. So it's geological, is basically what they're saying. It's not man-made, it's not extraterrestrial, it's natural formation. But the way that it got there is odd. It was contained in like an icial glacier that defrosted and deposited there. And that's why it looks like it was a crash site for this thing, because it would have defrosted and thawed and slowly come down and drifted there and landed there. But yeah, they think it's a volcanic rock formation. And yeah, this is what the scientists said from this one little sample. And the news got hold of it. And they put it out there that it's not a UFO. It is just a load of rocks. Which kind of scuppered Ocean X's next expedition. They were trying to raise funds to go back there to have a secondary look. Because what they thought is if this was a crashed UFO and it was coming down, and it was coming down at heat and at speed, I mean, you can see from some of these sort of 3D representations that it looks like it carved its way through another rock bed before it actually made its final resting place. So who's to say if it was really hot on entry that it didn't pick up a load of swathe of debris of that rock face and sort of skinned itself in it with this molten sort of rock that stuck to its hull. Ocean X wanted to go back down there with drilling materials and drill through that rock to see if they hit anything metallic or harder or different than what was on the top, because it looks like it's picked up a load of sediment. To me, it still looks like there is a long crash line and even a subsection of a smaller area that's come off of it, maybe an escape pod or something. But to me, this looks like a crash site. And I know that they said that, it deposited through an ice sheet, but I would expect to be lots more debris of this sort of brown matter, or black matter I should say, all the way through the actual crash trail. But until Ocean X gets their funding to go back and have a better look at this thing, I don't think you can fully rule this out as being fake. I think it's unfair to say fake. But, at the end of the day, we've got to go what's out there at the moment. So right now, this is labelled as fake, but I think it needs more investigation. Love to hear your thoughts. Put them in the comments. Thank you very much, people. And until next time, have fun out there. Cheery bye. Goodbye, and goodbye again. Well, thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see, please hit a like and a subscribe. And I'd like to say a massive, great big thank you to all of my backers over on Patreon and over on YouTube membership. Thanking you, backers. And if you want to support this channel, just don't skip the adverts. That throws revenue down my avenue. Or yeah, just stay with Captain Steve that little bit longer and hit something on this screen. There's merch here now too.